Alright, so this is part 2 of the video. We've already seen an interview, a very extensive interview, with a professional performance art person who drums for a living. Now we're going to see some of the techniques he uses on both the snare drum alone, or the drum pad, and in the drum set itself. This is what we call a drum pad. It's supposed to simulate a snare drum. And this is a lot of times what you'll see people who drum in drum corps, they will practice on these. And then that will prepare them for when they actually go and do their performance on a real snare drum. First thing to know is grip. How do you grip the sticks? First thing is that you don't grip the stick like that. You only use, if you're using matched grip, you use mainly these two fingers, your thumb and your forefinger. The rest of them just kind of loosely hold on to the stick. I'm going to see I do that for both hands. This is matched grip. This is how I'm holding the sticks right now. Some people will tell you matched grip is supposed to be played sort of like this, where your sticks are coming in at a 45-degree angle to the pad. Some people will tell you to keep your hands in and come in more at a 90-degree angle to the pad. I like to have them somewhere in the middle because that feels comfortable to me. You definitely don't want to have your arms way in here like this, and you don't want to be way out here like a chicken. That's what some people will say to you, is stop looking like a chicken if you get your arms out too far. But if you were going to play in a drum corps, then they might have you switch to something called traditional grip. And you see all I did, this is matched, this is traditional. Now the stick is basically horizontal. And this is actually how people started drumming when they were in armies marching in, say, the American Revolution. The drummers would have a drum, a snare drum, about right here slung across their shoulder. So there'd be a sling here, and the drum would be right here. Obviously, it's quite hard to play like this while you're trying to march. So what they would do is they'd hold the stick like this, and if this is the drum on my leg, now it's a lot easier to get over the top of the drum. People still use traditional grip today, especially in marching bands. Because I'm left-handed, which means I like to start things in the snare drum, when I'm playing with my left hand, I like to do traditional grip backwards with my right hand instead of my left hand being the one that's changed. This just feels more comfortable to me. So, and when I'm actually playing on something like the drum set over here, which you can't see right now, but you will, I usually only go to this in the drum set context when I have to do what's called a double or a buzz stroke roll. Now we can actually start playing. What you'll see drum instructors do is they'll say, alright, you learn everything on the pad first and then go to the drum set. We're going to do the same thing with this presentation. I'm going to start here on the pad and then work my way over to the drum set. All I'm going to do, playing matched grip, is show you the right and then the wrong way to play. This is the wrong way. That's the wrong way. See if you can spot the difference between that and this is the right way. Could you see the difference? See, the difference was that with the wrong way, I was using my whole arms to hit the drum. And that also led me to hold the stick like this. You don't want to do that. Instead, you hold the stick like this, the proper way to do it, and you use your wrists. Watch again and see if you can spot the difference. See the difference? Alright, let's go to traditional grip. very little upper arm movement and shoulder movement. It's mostly contained within the lower half of your arm and your wrists. That's how you can get to be able to play match grip single strokes and go that fast. Alright, now what I'm going to do to show you kind of how this would play out if I was actually playing something, I'm going to play a full 4/4 measure of quarter notes, then eighth notes, then triplets, then 16th notes, then sixes, or what we would also call 16th note triplets, then a double stroke roll and a buzz roll. And each of these is going to continue for only 4 beats of a 4/4 measure. Believe me, we'll cover all of what I just said in subsequent sections. Just let me play this first, and I'm going to do it traditional grip. Alright, so there's multiple concepts I want to get across in this next segment. I've showed you some of the techniques that I use to play. Now it's time to learn how to play. First thing that we always do is we set our metronome. This is a metronome. What it does is when I turn it on, it just puts clicks, and it sets it at a certain tempo. And the tempo is read in beats per minute. Standard march time is 120 beats per minute, or 2 per second if you really want to get mathematically correct. That's what I have the metronome set to. This is the speed that a lot of marching band music is played to. But how do we know what to play? That's where this comes in. The top note up here is called a whole note. And a whole note gets 4 beats of a 4/4 measure, or 8 beats of an 8/8 measure, or 2 beats of a 2/2 measure. The next one down is a half note. It gets half the number of beats that a whole note gets. Then, the next one down, a quarter note, gets half of a half note, which is half of a whole note. So all I'm doing is I'm cutting the number of beats that the note gets in half each time I go down this chart. And that holds true all the way down to 30-second notes, which can also be read as a double stroke roll. Now I'm going to show you what I was playing in that intro segment to part 2. The top one is a quarter note. We already talked about that. The next one down is 2 eighth notes. And they also get 1 beat, just like a quarter note does. Only there's 2 hits in 1 beat. So, let me play that for you. Quarter note is 2 eighth notes. Both are 1 beat. There's just more than 1 stroke in that 1 beat with the eighth notes. The next one down, is a triplet. And a triplet can also be read as 3 eighth notes, except that there's a little 3 above the notes, so that's how I know it's a triplet. And a triplet is 3 strokes in 1 beat. So if you remember, a quarter note is then 2 eighth notes, and then a triplet. Triplet. That's how you can remember how you play it. Is you say triplet for each hit. So triplet, like that. That can also help you when you're playing jazz, which I don't think we'll get to in this. The next one down are 4th, 16th notes. And can you guess? That's right. There's 4 strokes in 1 beat. So a quarter, 2 eighth notes, triplet, 16th notes. The next one down is a 6, and that's 16th note triplets. There's 2 triplets within the span of 1 beat, and you see, just like the 16th notes, they have another bar connecting them. So, all of these are in 1 beat, but quarter, 8th, triplet, 16th, that's a 6. The next one down is a 9-stroke roll, and that uses 32nd notes. 32nd notes, there's 2 32nd notes for 1 16th note. So all you're doing is you're playing 4 16th notes, except that each stroke of the 4 16th notes has 2 hits. That may sound complicated, but if I play 1 E and A, that's how you count 16ths. So 1 E and A. Now I'm going to play a double stroke roll. 1 E and A. Simple. The next one down is a buzz roll. And again, you're playing 4 16th notes, but each hit of the 16th notes has more than 2 hits per stroke. And again, that may sound complicated, but if you remember, 1 E and A, 1 E and A, 1 E and A. And a lot of times the buzz roll is used in orchestral music, and also when they say, introducing, like that. Alright, now that you've learned how the proper technique, how to play, and some of the notes that we play, now it's time to look at music, and how we read music and how we play music. I'm sure you recognize there's the 16th notes and the 8th notes and the quarter notes. We didn't talk about rests, though. This is a quarter rest. That means you rest for 1 beat. This right here is an 8th rest, and that means you rest for half a beat because it's 4/4. Next thing about this are these figures right here. That's 2 16th notes followed by an 8th note. 1 E and is how you would read this figure, and 1 and a 2 is how you would read this figure. The next thing are these dotted quarter notes. If you put a dot after any note, that means that the dot means half of the beat. So this quarter note gets 1 beat. The dot means that you add half of a quarter note onto the quarter note. So that means that this quarter note gets 1.5 beats to it. These X shots here, those are rims. That means you go on the rim of the snare pad. So now that you, and then also these things that I've highlighted. This thing right here is called a repeat. So I start here at the beginning, I get to this repeat, and because there's no repeat sign, I go all the way back to the beginning and play this again, and then the second time I go on. There's another repeat right here. That means I get here and I play through, and I go to the first ending right here. Then I go to the repeat and go back to the repeat up here. Then I play this through again, and then when I get here, I skip to the second ending and then play the rest. Dies al fine means that you get here and you go back to this sign. So I play through, I do all the repeats, I get here, I go back here and play from here until I see the word fine, which means final. So, in fact, what I do is I play this line again, I go this line, this line, this line, this line, this line. I go back, first ending, go back to the repeat, this line, this line, this line. Go to the second ending, this line, this line, this line, D sol fine. I go back here and play this line again, then this line again, and then I go to the word fine, and that's where I stop. Alright, so now that I've talked to you about how to read the music, all the rest, now it's time to play it. I'm wearing my glasses because I can't see far away. Unfortunately, this piece is not at standard 120 time, it's at 108 time. So I'm going to set my metronome to 108 and turn the power on. Set it on my music stand and start tapping my foot to the click. This helps me keep the time in my head as I start playing so I don't speed up or slow down. Now I'm going to start playing. Okay, so that was a pretty easy piece, because all it was 16th notes, 8th notes, and quarter notes, along with a few rests. Now it's time to play something a little bit more challenging for me. This piece that I've picked is called the U.S. Field Artillery March, and as you can see, it's a bit more complicated. This, you see, there's the 16th notes, and the 8th notes, and the 8th rests, and all the rest. This figure right here is a 17-stroke roll, and that's 2 9-stroke rolls, which we've already talked about. Remember, the 9-stroke roll is 4 16th notes, only there's 2 hits every 16th note stroke, so that you get 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and that's why it's called the 9-stroke roll. Down here are 5-stroke rolls. And that's the 1 and a 2 figure that we talked about with the last piece, only with the and a 2 part, you roll with that. See, there's the 1 and a 2, there's a 5-stroke roll. Notice the similarities. The 17-stroke roll is simply rolling a 9-stroke roll twice in a row. So 1 E and a, 2 E and a 1. And other than that, it's pretty simple. These figures right there, and there, and there, and all around here, those are called repeats. And those don't mean that you go here, then you go here, then you go back to there. That means you simply repeat whatever was in the measure before it. So this is 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 32 times, and then you end it. So this should be interesting, eh? Alright, so I looked at the tempo. It's at 1:16, which is pretty close to standard march time. Now it's time to play. Got the metronome set to 1:16. There it goes. And you can tell that that was very roll heavy. And that was one of the things that made it hard to learn. Normally, I'd be playing that, if I was going to play it for an actual thing, I would be playing that with several other snare drummers in a marching band. Alright, so now that I've taught you the basics, and please remember that those were merely scratched the surface as to what you actually need to know in order to be able to play in marching bands and really get into snare drumming. But what I taught you should serve you pretty well. So now that we've gotten through that, now we can move on to the masterpiece, our drum set. And I'm sure you guys remember this from when we played at school, but as you can tell, there's a lot to this drum set. And the main part of it is that it's big and complicated, and the best way, I think, in order to show you what all of the parts are, what they're used for, what they sound like, the best way to do that is to take the drum set apart, then put it back together and explain what each part is and what they're used for as I put it back together.